My name is Hii Wee Yin and my matric number is 9854. Our group is going to make a presentation with the topic of Malaysia Capital Market Master Plan 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to introduce the executive summary for this topic and also present the conclusion at the end of the presentation. Capital market represents an exchange platform for the flow of capital in the market, which involves the capital supplier and the capital demander. Malaysian Capital Market Master Plan has been formulated by the Securities Commission Malaysia with the short form of SC. Why should the SC establish this master plan? It is because the capital market faces with a lot of challenges after Malaysia's recovery from financial crisis in 1997 and 1998. The master plan has planning framework and specifies the objectives with its goals by implementing relevant strategic initiatives. It is aimed to support the demand and aspirations of the country's growth in the capital market by confronting the challenges from external issues such as district or global competition. For the first series of Malaysian Capital Market Master Plan, it planned for the 10 years period from 2001 until 2010. It is aimed to build a stable foundation for the growth of the capital market in the future. And there are 6 objectives for Master Plan 1, which are to be the primary fundraising center as capital suppliers to the Malaysian companies, to advertise a useful environment and efficient investment management for investors, to enhance the effectiveness and competitiveness of market institutions, to enhance intermediation services into a stable and competitively capital market, to improve the regulatory regime into stable and accommodative status, and lastly is to build Malaysia as a global center in Islamic capital market. And for the Malaysia Capital Market Master Plan 2, it also takes for 10 years period from 2011 until 2020 in developing the Malaysia capital market. Master Plan 2 is aimed to identify weaknesses of capital market structure and produce varied and innovative intermediation environment to grab opportunities for growth. The objective of Master Plan 2 is to build the foundations in the first Master Plan and enhance the Malaysian capital market into a regulatory and flexible capital market. Master Plan 2 has recognized 3 main challenges that need to be solved, which are changing the Malaysian capital market into a competitive structure, managing risk to the investor when landscaping transformation is in progress, and plans with the prospect of growth for the future time of 10 years. For the third Malaysia Capital Market Master Plan, it takes a shorter time of 5 years period from 2021 until 2025. It desires to carry 3 outcomes that can benefit the capital market, which is relevance, efficiency, and diversity. It has set up the objectives with 2 different class aspects, which are development class and regulatory class. For the development class, it aims to boost the growth of the competitive capital market, to authorize in developing a better future by investors, and to model sustainable and responsible investment in Islamic capital market by stakeholder economy. And lastly, for the regulatory class, it aims to integrate accountability in the capital market, implement efficiency and its outcome as a priority, and to capture the digital era.
Hi, I'm Britney, and now I'm going to discuss about the objective of Malaysia's Capital Market Master Plan 1. The first objective is act as capital seeker and supplier and the primary fundraising center for companies in Malaysia. Malaysia's capital market should provide the ability for issuers to raise capital using the different instruments that are appropriate for their risk profile and maturity, overcome the weakness of the ability of the capital market to meet the needs of capital raising. The second objective is to introduce a more sustainable investment environment and an efficient investment management industry for investors. Companies with good corporate governance and business conduct can promote a more attractive investment environment to investors, improve the relationship with investors, and improve the communication among companies and their shareholders. Build a competitive investment industry to serve the different investment preferences of investors. The third objective is improve market institutions' competitiveness and efficiency. React quickly and effectively to changes in the global environment to carve out and consolidate positions in the worldwide market. ensure that their organizational structure and business model are compatible with the changing global financial landscape. Offer rising funds to the issuer, competitive pricings, and sufficient visibility international for their security to receive proper value recognitions. Objective 4 is create a robust and competitive intermediation service environment. Domestic deregulation will allow intermediaries to offer a wider variety of product and service and the development of full-service domestic broker. Encourage the development of a one-stop capital market to foster a significantly more competitive market for integral financial service that benefit consumers. Next is develop a more robust and accommodating regulatory regime. Regulatory authority must adapt and react to the challenges and implications of the changing business environment properly. A strong and facilitative regulatory framework must characterize the capital market to promote establishing an efficient and internationally competitive Malaysian capital market. The objective 6 is to develop Malaysia as a global center for Islamic capital markets. Establish itself as a leading provider of Islamic capital market product and service, encourage the growth of a diverse variety of competitive Islamic securities, product and service. Now I'm going to discuss about the important strategy of the Malaysian Capital Market Master Plan 1. Strategy initiative for Objective 1. First, boost the performance of the fundraising process. Second, establish a comprehensive plan to create a competitive corporate bond market for fundraising. Next, encourage the expansions of the venture capital industry as the source of funding for fast-growing companies. Last, to encourage the development of an efficient and liquid secondary security market. Strategy initiative for Objective 2, establish a robust corporate governance and shareholder value recognition framework, develop a competitive and robust investment management industry, strengthen institutional investor fund provisions and management functions, actively expanding the derivative industry to promote effective risk management, and last, launch various capital market products that adapt to different risk-return profile. Strategy initiative for Objective 3. Malaysia's exchange and clearing institutions must be restructured to enhance competitiveness and efficiency. Implementing flexible corporate structure and commercially focused strategy to ensure that Malaysia's exchange are advantageous to react to changing market dynamic. Last is boost the trading, clearing, and settlement infrastructure efficiency. Strategy initiative for Objective 4, liberalize service, product, and fee-free structure to encourage healthy competitions. Establish a competitive market for integral financial service by forming a robust full-service broker. Ensure that the business behavior and professional skill of Malaysia's intermediation service remain high and the service are based on sustainable prudential standard. Last is implementing a functional liberalization plan supported by sustainable safeguard. Strategy initiative for Objective 5. First is shift to a market-based regulatory regime for capital market activity, ensure regulatory consistency and parity among all institutions and players engaged in similar capital market activity in Malaysia. Ensure that Malaysia's capital market regulations are strictly enforced. Last, increase the potential for financial and systemic stability. Strategy initiative for Objective 6. First, encourage the growth of a diverse variety of attractive Islamic capital market product and service. Next, establish a market that can effectively mobilize Islamic funds. Next, ensure that the Islamic capital market has a proper and complete accounting, tax, and legal framework. Last is strengthen the global recognitions of Malaysia's Islamic capital market.
Malaysian Capital Market Master Plan 2. The first objective is changing the dynamic of competition in the Malaysian capital market. First, strengthen the efficiency of the allocation of capital and give rise to the trust private sectors to operate as a media of dynamic growth. Important channel for organized investment plan and management of retirement savings. Reflects the critical roles to capital markets in funding a diversified and vibrant global economy. Structural weaknesses had to be addressed and efficiencies in critical linkage in the capital market had to be enhanced to foster an innovative intermediation environment with more variety and to encourage new growth opportunity. Challenges such as increasing the efficiency and capacity of the capital market in funding the investment required for the growth of economy, addressing the structural imbalance between private sector investment and saving, intensify the liquidity of sector market, whitening the scale and identify new opportunity for market growth, building capacity and strengthening the information facility. The second objective is regulating risk from a changing landscape. Strong regulatory surveillance and governance alignments are needed to increase increased financialization and net risk from financial gain tendency which result in abuses, excesses, and engross with outcome in the short term. Regulation is important as it is crucial in amending market excesses by instilling the fact that investment and any market activities made by investors will be carried out fairly and beneficial to them. Risk managing from an ever-changing intermediation landscape requires straightforward points of responsibility with effective regulatory surveillance and reach greater standard and potential in intermediary operation, regulatory focus extension to the risk of stability, a greater standard of corporation governance, and widening in governance participation. Strategy Initiative Objective 1. First, promote more capital formation. To create an environment that encourages the formation of new businesses and sectors, the growth of small and mid-cap enterprise, the financing of large ventures of high risk, and the promotion of investment in socially responsible projects. Broadens the bond market access by strengthening disclosure and documentation standards and practices, expanding investment management industry participation in the bond market, and strengthening bond trading and post-trade infrastructure, as well as facilitating greater rental participation in the bond market. Second, boost efficiency and scope of the intermediary. Establish private retirement plan business to improve the investment management industry engagement, indirect investment and branding in leisure. Strengthening derivative cross-margin, clearing and settlement of infrastructure, and cooperating with the industry to expand products and services. Expand market connectivity and participation and will lead to an increase in connectivity through technology, cross-product alliances and convenience. Strengthen the role and capability of agents, unit trust agents, and financial planners and attract rental participation. Third, facilitating globalization. The deepening of global finance and the convergence with international standards have allowed issuer, investor, and intermediaries to enter more markets and expand their international intermediary capability. Malaysia looks forward to form strategic alliances with other exchanges, especially within Asia, will strengthen the positions of our country in the global exchange landscape, strengthen the interconnections of clearing and settlement infrastructure to reduce friction costs, to attract more international investors to trade in our secondary stock, bond, and derivative markets. Fourth, increasing capacity and strengthening information infrastructure. To build capacity and strengthen information infrastructure to support the expansion of the capital market to high value added field and ensure the provision of skill to support innovation. To promote a more diverse workforce to gain benefit from wide perspective as this will result in a robust and innovative process. Fifth, intensifying liquidity and intermediations of risk. To intensify the liquidity of the secondary market, which provide efficient market access that incentive the upstream activity of investing. The liquidity of the secondary market plays an important role in promoting investment as there is a structural shift in the economy from the traditional activities to manufacturing to innovation and service-based activities. Short-term risk intermediation activities help in facilitating higher completion of secondary market transactions, which also improve the state of risk-taking activities and produce momentum in economic growth. Intensifying the liquidity of secondary market helps to broaden the scope of investment style and strategy to spread the investment distribution by asset class and size. Strategy Initiative for Objective 2. First, to control risk by strengthening product supervision. A favorable environment can help to create a product innovation. CMSA will expand the scope to allow market participants to interact with a wide range of asset types and product structure and put previously unregulated activities and participants under regulatory control. To have a fundraising and product innovation framework that is efficient. This is to find a balancing between changing speed of the innovation and the level of production provided by regulatory assessment. Quality and accuracy of information disclosure is also important to protect investors. By enforcing requirements, disclosure can overcome the problem of knowledge asymmetry and so become the primary basis for product regulation. Disclosure gives investors the information they need to evaluate a product and serve as the foundations for processing. Second, the scope of intermediation expands with responsibility. Pay attention to the relationship between customer and intermediation agency to provide conflicts of interest that may arise from participation in various activities. The standards and capacity for intermediation should be reinforced to improve their ability to manage financial, product, and technological risks, conduct risk management on operational and financial counterparties. Third, to establish a strong regulatory framework to adapt rapidly market landscape. The difference in regulatory obligations has resulted in a competitive balance between the new market and the mature market. The increasingly fierce competition for order flow between exchanges and intermediaries intensified the conflict of interest between them. Comprehensive regulatory measures can be implemented to improve market quality by increasing openness and fairness among players. They involve tightening oversight of any conflicts of interest in proprietary trading and examining trading methods to ensure that intermediaries behave in their clients' best interests. Reporting requirements and real-time data gathering can be improved to encourage more effective market surveillance and greater market transparency. Fourth, to monitor the risk effectively. Securities Commission implements securities supervision to strengthen the responsibility of the supervisory entity and maintain the public's confidence in the integrity of the Malaysian capital market, to increase the area of supervision and improve its ability and instruments to ensure effective supervision of participants, markets, and listed companies, to improve the overall investor protection system expanding investor education programs, and improve redress procedures such as complaints handling, investment compensation scheme, and dispute settlement mechanisms. Security regulators plays an important role in promoting the stability of the financial system, improve the transparency and information disclosure of the entire market, and expand the scope of supervision, increase internal resources to monitor market development and identify emerging risks, can cooperate with other domestic and foreign regulators to develop a stronger and coordinated framework to promote the stability of the financial system. Strengthening corporate governance. Securities Commission established on international corporate governance advisory committees to improve Malaysia's corporate governance standards and make policy recommendations for the 5 years plan. For board of directors, company can appoint the directors from various levels of independence, skills, and stakeholders to ensure that the decision making is from different perspectives and skills. Shareholders should actively participate in activity of the company, so directors become more alert and sensitive to shareholders' opinions, will increase the awareness of the board and its responsibility of professional conduct, improve their internal control process to better handle conflicts of interest, can strengthen accountability and responsibility standards, or expand the scope of supervision. Use other monitoring tools such as analysis reports and public complaints should be strengthened to put greater pressure on third-party monitoring agencies to meet the requirement standards. Lastly, tightening the participation in governance, encouraging the shareholders to play an active role in the stock market. Security commissions will be broadening scope of investor education, including ethics and integrity, raise public awareness of the consequences of corporate fraud, and encourage active participation in corporate voting and investment products related to the investment environment, society, and governance. Strengthening collaboration with capital market intermediary, participating in investor education projects, promoting financial inclusion, expanding the range of suitable products, and cultivating the saving habits and investment capabilities of a broader group of people are all things that need to be done. Companies must be more responsible for the environmental and societal consequences of their operation and encourage more people to participate in achieving the goal of society responsibility.
Good day, everyone. My name is Shylienna, not Jesefilda, and my metric number is 71572. And I will be presenting for the part of Malaysian Capital Market Master Plan 3's objective. So the Malaysian Capital Market Master Plan 3 is actually developed by the Securities Commission Malaysia, or better known as SC. It is developed for the period of 5 years, which is from the year 2021 to 2025. It is developed to encourage the people to participate in the country's sustainable and productive growth and earn a greater wealth accumulation. Besides that, it is also aimed to enable a more relevant, efficient, and diversified market. So the Master Plan 3's objectives are divided into two parts, which is the Development Trust and the Regulatory Trust. So what does it mean by relevant, efficient, and diversified market? So a relevant market means that a capital market that are constantly innovates with the current economy to serve the economy and investor in the future at its best. Whereas the efficient market means that a capital market that are able to provide efficient and reliable infrastructure as well as services by allocating big capital into the productivity sectors of the economy. And last but not least, the diversified market indicates that a capital market that are differentiated to enhance its overall competitiveness and creates a greater value to its market participants. So under Development Trust, we have three objectives, which is to catalyze competitive growth, to empower investors for a better future, as well as to shape a stakeholder economy with sustainable and responsible investment SRI and Islamic capital market ICM. To catalyze the competitive growth, SC must enable the financial intermediaries and service providers to respond to the needs of these businesses and investors, as well as tailoring the appropriate market solution for them to grow and become competitive. As our nation is moving towards an aging status, Malaysians must be empowered by providing them the knowledge to invest, the information to make investment decisions, the access to products and services, as well as options to compare and diversify, so that they can accumulate wealth in the capital market and prepare for their retirement. In order to shape the stakeholder economy, the SC supports long-term value creation in the capital market by promoting responsible business with good corporate governance and facilitating capital intermediation to sustainable and responsible business through SRI and ICM to meet the needs of broader stakeholders. The next objective of this Master Plan 3 is the Regulatory Trust. Under this Regulatory Trust, the SC aims to embed shared accountability in the capital market, to prioritize efficiency and outcomes, as well as to embrace the digital edge. The embedded shared accountability in the capital market is integrity. Hence, SC must refine its regulatory framework into a framework that designed to promote market growth and integrity in a developing environment that encompasses sustainability, competition, and innovation. This Master Plan 3 also prioritized the efficiency and outcomes of the SC supervisories and enforcement function to maintain a fair and orderly market and to promote investor confidence. Therefore, SC must identify and assess the vulnerable investor and at the same time refine its regulatory approach to oversee, to identify, and to address capital market violation, as well as to ensure a more effective prevention on the market misconduct. So, as the evolving environment has ultimately driven the current digital revolution, this digital revolution has brought pros and cons to the market participants, such as new experience and opportunities, as well as risks, such as cyber risk, the risk of data breach, and AI bias. Therefore, SC must refine its rule around technology-enabled activities while transforming their own internal technology capabilities to achieve a better regulatory efficiency and effectiveness.
Good day to Sir Ahmad and everyone. My name is Jing Nee and my metrics number is 71760. I will continue with the strategy implemented to achieve the objective of Malaysian Capital Market Master Plan 3. As aforementioned, there are 6 objectives which are catalyzing competitive growth, empowering investors for a better future, shaping a stakeholder economy with SRI and ICM, embedding shared accountability within the capital market, prioritizing efficiencies and outcomes, and lastly, embracing the digital age. Objective 1, catalyzing competitive growth, which are comprised of 4 strategies. The first strategy is pushing the frontiers of the economy. To accomplish this, the market players are encouraged to explore new avenues such as safe notes, angel fund, and angel syndication lists for early stage financing. Other than that, collaboration with relevant government agencies and investment entities are encouraged to facilitate greater use of market-based financing and develop the domestic VC and PE industry as well as corporate venture landscape. In addition to it, the SC is working on to introduce new intermediary models and evaluate mechanisms that will enable the bond market to be more inclusive for small to mid-capacity companies. Second strategy is enabling a multi-layered market. It means that the capital market has to enable differentiation in marketplaces for different segments of market participants. The next strategy is facilitating diversity of the intermediation landscape. It is important that the SC is able to facilitate healthy competition across the intermediation value chain, while at the same time enhancing the market-making frame along with the securities borrowing and lending framework, which is also known as SDL. Last strategy for Objective 1 is expanding risk intermediation. Due to the rise of global players' anticipation, the market should develop a framework to allow remote membership into the Malaysian derivatives market that starts with trading participants. Next is to expand suite of commodities, financial and equity derivatives, and also expanding derivatives product for retail investors on the other hand, which it is complemented with efforts to educate retail investors on derivatives trading. Similarly, there are 4 strategies for Objective 2, empowering investors for a better future. The first strategy is widening investment options across more investors segment. First initiative here is reviewing framework for investor categorization by considering criteria such as level of investor knowledge, professional experience, and sophistication to assess qualifications for the accredited investor segment and consider measures to increase inclusivity for mass affluent segment. Also, effort like evaluating approach is launched to liberalize access to non-traditional products for the mass affluent segment. The next strategy is fostering accessible and quality investment advice. For higher demand of customized suggestion, the SC will develop a roadmap together with market participants towards a more diverse investment advisory landscape in Malaysia. The third strategy here is enabling greater efficiencies through market infrastructures. With the growth of Malaysia's financial sectors, the SC is coordinating a study of feasibility regarding the infrastructure requirements for Malaysia's financing sectors. Moving to the last strategy under Objective 2 is facilitating greater digital inclusiveness across investors. Despite the efforts contributed by the market, such as creating digitalized supporting stations, providing more supervision towards the vulnerable groups, and etc., SC has assisted and cooperated with other investors in the market to prepare and provide various help and programs that will ideal these highly vulnerable group of persons to be prepared for the evolving digitalization challenges. Next is Objective 3. Shaping a stakeholder economy with sustainable and responsible investment, which is also known as SRI, and Islamic capital market, which is also known as ICM. There are 3 strategies to achieve this objective. The first strategy is mobilizing capital to sustainable and responsible business. Nowadays, the entities in Malaysia need to put a lot of investment into the acquisition of green or environmental friendly technology into their business. The next strategy is expanding the reach of ICM to the broader stakeholders of the economy. Since the evolution of the Islamic capital market in Malaysia has been relatively better over the years, the focus here should be about allowing the micro, small, and medium enterprises to enter the market with easier entries or applications, specifically the halal industries. As a startup, the relevant party should as well develop guidance to facilitate assessment of unlisted companies for Islamic fundraising activities due to the lack of experience and knowledge for certain circles of investors. Last strategy for Objective 3 is embracing collaboration and innovation for growth. As time goes, Malaysia's capital market expanded rapidly, and the SC aims to position Malaysia as a hub for SRI by developing thought leadership, catering to regional capacity building needs, as well as championing innovation and research. Moving on to Objective 4, embedding shared accountability within the capital market, there are 5 strategies to help achieving it. Strategy 1 is promoting responsible business. To achieve this, the SC encouraged the entities to strengthen board leadership through effective board composition and also to develop capacity for ESG leadership in corporates. Secondly, inculcating greater self-regulation. To maintain the integrity and the quality of the capital market, the registered operators are advised to formulate strategies, including guidance to incentivize greater voluntary self-reporting or cooperation. Next, encouraging greater investor activism and advocacy. Over the years, the result portrayed by the revolution and encouragement of investors to engage various risks and challenges in the capital market has indirectly accelerated shareholder activism and stewardship, while the SC is focusing on greater use of digital tools and platforms. In coming time, the SC will implement initiatives in relation to the Malaysian National Strategy for Financial Literacy, together with Bank Negara Malaysia and other members of Financial Education Network. The fourth strategy is moving further towards the principles-based regulations. As the application of the principle-based approach in regulatory is at its initial phase, the review for regulations and provisions for principles-based regulations are essential. To provide a better understanding, the SC has enabled regulated entities through the implementation of strategies to engage, educate, and guide market participants. Last but not least of the strategy under this objective is enhancing the transparency of the SC's regulatory approach. In conjunction to the previous strategy, the SC is dedicated to enhance communication of regulatory principles, priorities, and dimensions of decision-making. Next is the fifth objective with 4 strategies. Strategy 1 is enhancing focus on protecting investors against vulnerabilities. Due to the evolution of technology that become more sophisticated over time, the SC has worked on to elevate supervisory and enforcement focus on misconduct relating to vulnerable investors, particularly senior investors. Strategy 2 stated reviewing the regulatory architecture for the capital market. The SC decided to conduct joint study with Bank Negara Malaysia to enhance the regulatory structure for the financial market. Strategy 3 is enhancing supervisory efficiency and efficacy. As the risk arises, there are essential need to expand supervisory coverage across the industry, as well as strengthen capabilities on emerging risks arising from SRI and innovation. To provide better supervision and guideline for every market participants, the SC has put into the effort to issue governance standards for capital market participants and enhance supervisory focus on culture and conduct. Strategy 4 is enabling swift, effective, and targeted enforcement. Despite the regulatory approach aforementioned, the next relevant effort is to institutionalize annual identification of the SC and AOB's enforcement priorities in alignment with the broader priorities of the SC. Last objective is embracing digital age. Under this objective, there are only 3 strategies implemented. The first strategy is catalyzing regulatory technology. Investors nowadays are encouraged to deepen understanding about the regulatory technology within the industry through outreach programs and industry-wide dialogues. The second strategy is navigating emerging technology risks. The advancement of technologies also elevated the risk faced by the investors, and that is why they should prepare themselves from the prospect of knowledge and capacity to identify this digital realm type of cyber threats. Last but not least for this objective is integrating data and technology across the regulatory value chain. Despite the enhancement of functionality for the existing systems to handle a broader variety of regulatory submissions, as well as upgraded with more dynamic features, the SC as well strengthened analytics and predictive capabilities to augment policy making and risk surveillance.
In conclusion, Capital Market Master Plan integrate definite development efforts on the capital market through a regulatory philosophy statement. It focuses on enhancing the formation of the capital market with the demands of the country's economy and environment that are supportive by developing functional mobilization of local funds. It determines the value of shareholders and identify the foundation building progress within the Malaysian capital market. At the same time, an effort on self-regulation and discipline of capital market can be evaluated as efficiency when the encouragement and effective way has been implemented. It also encourages participants to join capital market and grab the benefits from business strategies when the formulation of the path of future development has been analyzed. That's all from us. Thank you.